Hello, everyone. Welcome to Talk Birth to Me podcast. This is going to be women's journeys throughout pregnancy and birth. We will be discussing infertility, treatments, and different types of births such as C-sections or natural births. If that is something that might be a trigger to you, feel free to see the title at the beginning, and we will always list what it's about. So if that's something that you are uncomfortable with, feel free to exit and join us at another episode. I hope you're doing well today, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Sit back and enjoy this special story from one of our friends. I just want to thank you for being here with me today and being open to sharing your story with me, because I love hearing everybody's stories because they're all different. It doesn't matter if you had a C-section and somebody else had a C-section. Your C-section story is going to be different, So yep. I love it because it was your journey, and somebody might listen and say, hey, I'm going through that right now, and it might be a huge blessing for them. So it's the reason why I love to talk to as many people as I can. But I know my close friends, it's easier for y'all to be like, hey, I'll tell you what's going on,
Yeah.
So I won't ask you too many questions, but I do want to know a lot about your birth, and your pregnancies, if you remember them all, because I don't remember all of mine.
Luckily, I only had, Max was the first.
Mm-hmm. How old's Max now? 7?
He is 7.
7.
So from what I remember of that pregnancy, it wasn't bad. I was in Texas at the time, so it just got really hot. So I was just really irritable and swollen all the time.
Oh, bless your heart.
I had no complications with him until closer to his due date.
Oh, no.
I had, right when I was starting my weekly appointments, his heart rate plummeted.
Mm-hmm.
So we got monitored the first time in early October, and then they said I could go home but do bare minimum. Mm-hmm. So, okay, bare minimum, watch TV, eat popcorn, all that good junk. Well, my next appointment was the 29th. And
that of October, you said?
Of October.
Okay.
Like, it was my first appointment of my weekly appointments.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I went in for just a regular checkup. No, nothing special, making sure his weight was fine, measuring okay. And then something wasn't monitoring right. Mm-hmm. So they had to do a stress test. Okay, well, let's do this stress test.
Mm-hmm.
Get it. And from what I remember, his heart rate kept dropping during the stress test. So that was an automatic. Dr. Woods came in there. Do you mind if we take him today?
Mm-hmm.
Say what?
You're 36 weeks because that starts your first.
Yep.
So you went in just thinking, I'm going to go eat Chick-fil-A after this.
Yes. Like I had breakfast. I didn't have lunch. And next thing I know, we're rolling in labor and delivery from AOG. And Dr. Woods is, let's prep her.
Wait a minute. Am I ready? Like, time out.
And my aunt was with me during this time because the previous appointment, my mom went and got monitored then too. Since everything came back fine, my mom told my aunt to bring me to that one. And I remember her calling my mom, Pamela, get down here. Guess what? So, and while they were monitoring me, the funny part is I scared myself so bad. Mm-hmm. I started contracting.
Wow.
Yes. And then during my contractions, I remember my aunt looking at me because I was laughing. It didn't hurt, but I thought that entire situation was, we just comical. Like, it does not that. And then next thing I know, she's looking at me, asking if I was okay and if they gave me anything. And I'm like, no. Why? It's like, well, you're laughing and I think you're possessed. I'm like, no. This is just how it's going to fall today.
You're like, this is my life every day. Just let's go,
Little did I know that's how it started.
Right.
Yes. And then C-section went perfectly. He was declared emergent. They wanted to monitor him in NICU, but he came out perfectly fine. 5 pounds, 15 ounces. Good set of lungs on this kid.
Good.
Like, he was great.
He's the baby that, like, when they say let's take him at 36, he does pretty well. He was kind of prepared.
He was prepared. Like, I thought his lungs wouldn't have been developed all the way. I was afraid something was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But that kid wanted to just make my heart drop. It's like, here, I'm entering the world now, Mom.
He's like, this is the plan today. This is what we're doing.
Yes. He was like, little did you know.
Were you nervous about your C-section since you weren't really expecting it?
I was terrified.
Yeah.
But to be honest, like, if I'm thinking about it, I would have rather had a C-section than I do not want to push something out of me. Like it. So yeah, let's do that C-section.
I have family who always said, if I can be in control of it and I can just know, hey, I'm gonna get a shot right then, they're gonna cut me, I'm done. Like they love that, like, planning, and I thought that was funny.
I'm a planner. Like, I've got calendars everywhere. I've got little notepads. I write stuff down. I'm a planner.
Mm-hmm.
But when they threw out that emergency cesarean, look at that, I'm like, I'm glad I packed a go bag. Like,
right.
The military stuck with me here. Let's keep it in the car at all times. So I'm like, okay.
Were you good?
Like, every week.
Mm-hmm. Well, so what about postpartum? So, like, you
oh, goodness. So what I remember of postpartum during my first C-section, it was somewhat of a nightmare because I didn't really know what to expect. Mm-hmm. And I didn't expect to hurt so bad. And then when they take them early anyway, like, my milk wasn't ready. I tried with Max for a little bit. He just didn't take to it. Mm-hmm. And then actually came in. I wanted to cut them off.
Yeah, and it hurt so bad.
I wanted to cry so bad, like, all the time.
I don't think there's enough education for women who, if you do end up formula feeding, there's not enough education on what to do if you don't nurse, because that pain is, like, so unreal.
Yes. And they can't really
do anything.
They prepare you for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they give you a general idea, which is fantastic. Mm-hmm. But you're not really used to pain
up here. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it's not. You can anticipate it all you want, but until you actually have it, it's.
I agree.
Point.
Mm-hmm. It's just the icing on the cake when you have the baby already hurting everywhere. It's like, oh, okay, there's that too.
Yes. It's like, here, while you're cut open, bleeding, and wearing a diaper, we're going to get this newborn to take care of that you have to get up every 2 hours and feed, bathe. Like, here, let's just add to your stress, especially because I was a single parent at that time. So it was, and my parents was helping me a lot at that time.
Oh, I'm so thankful that they were there to help you. That's good.
Oh, me too. I wouldn't know what I would have done without my parents. And then my sister, she was there too, and she was a huge help. Huge help.
I think we see, like, God's timing's perfect because he knew you needed the help. And so now I know it was a little bit different with your next baby, and I know that's different, and it's so cool to see. You're like, the timing worked out good. I'm kind of stressed. Like, we've been doing a devotional, and it's like, if we try to take control of situations, we might think if it happens this way, it's perfect, but really we never know. So it's cool to look at that way. So how many babies do you have altogether? Did you have?
I have physically had 2 babies.
That's what I thought. And you have do you have stepchildren?
I do. 2 stepchildren older.
Woohoo! Well,
Oh, yeah.
I know that physically it feels like you birth them sometimes when they're being children. You're like, whoo, this is tough.
Oh, yeah.
But
Especially all boys and one girl.
yeah, I feel you have 3 boys also, which I know y'all knew that, but I'm telling you, them 3 boys, it's basically just survive. Please don't jump off the coffee table today. I do not need to go to the emergency room today.
Yep.
So whenever you were going into, when you found out you were pregnant with your daughter, were you nervous about maybe going into labor early again or having to do all that? Or
With Danny, I was more prepared along the mindset of, all right, so possible C-section.
mm-hmm.
Okay with that. If I can do a VBAC, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want some kind of plan. So I planned for both.
Of course you do, because that's your personality. You're like, I got to plan this.
But to be honest, I was just as terrified then as I was the first VBACs, because you can't predict what's going to happen. We all have estimate, or we can guess what's going to go on and have general knowledge, but anything can happen. And I was absolutely terrified of preeclampsia and all that stuff, which is absolutely normal. But I planned for each appointment, and I'm like, okay, how's she doing? Are we gaining weight? Do I need to do something? Because it's hard for me to gain weight anyway. It took me 8 times just to gain enough weight to go get into the Army. It was extremely difficult. And then with pregnancy, it was kind of like added stress. And I don't know if people can understand the stress of having to eat more than you can physically eat just to be able to gain weight.
And it's like, it's the same aspect as people who can't lose it. It's the same spectrum, you know?
Yes.
People don't realize there's people on both ends, you know?
Yes. And I was like, why do you get so frustrated with people with not losing weight, but yet you need to eat a hamburger? Hooker, I do. I eat fries. I put cheese on it. Like, it's...
Your body's like, I don't care. I'm going to not gain weight right now.
Oh, not gain weight ever. I barely... That's what I was worried about Danny, too, because I think, if I remember correctly, I only gained about 28 pounds with Max my entire pregnancy, and he came out 5'15".
So he was, a portion of what you even did gain was him.
Yes.
And then you have the placenta and the fluids, so really you didn't gain anything, you know?
That's what, and I was so afraid of, and I was drinking water out the yin yang. And then when Danny, I gained a tiny bit more weight, but it wasn't nowhere near that I wanted. But then again, she sat so much lower than what Max did. She made me miserable. Like, hurt to do anything, to sit down, to lay down, to move, to roll over. And I never really got that with Max. He was all up in my rib. Like, he was all high. And then she was just ready from the get-go.
And look at her now, still spunky as ever.
Right. She definitely carried extremely low. And every time they'd go in to check, and every time I'd get measured and all that good stuff, and she's down there. She's in her head's down. I'm like, I know her head's down. Like, I can't see how I'm sitting right now. Like, I know. And I know there was a few times where, like, I got so bad at work and I was working at Hamilton Medical at the time. I just literally walked to labor and delivery to get monitored. So bad.
Just go on your lunch break. Hey, I'm going to get checked out.
Pretty much. My lead, Denise, at the time, I remember her looking at me funny. She was like, "Are you okay?" And from what I remember, I was like, no, I'm not. So she walked me down to labor and delivery. They got my blood and hooked me up, and nothing happened that night, thankfully. But boy, I was absolutely miserable. Danny made me not want to have any more kids.
Mm-hmm.
She did it for me. But we came to the plan, or came up with the plan to have a scheduled C-section.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that, and she made it to our prospective due date on the 5th of April. So she came out right at 39 weeks. And they predicted her at about 6 pounds, 2 ounces.
Mm-hmm.
That little girl came out 7'7".
Little girl. Yeah, she's ready.
Yes. And I'm sitting there, and I remember my husband and his face, and I look, and I'm like, okay, I hear her.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked Josh, I'm like, what does she look like?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I don't know. I can't see it. I'm like, you're not looking? He's like, I'm not looking at that. I'm like, thanks. And so they brought her on the corner to clean her up. And then that's when he finally got up to go look at her. And I asked how much she weighed. And they said it's 7'7". And I look, I'm like, no, she didn't. So I'm sitting there still sprawled out on the table. And they look at her, and I'm like, no, she's not. And then Josh looks back. He's like, yeah. And points at it. I'm like, I can't look at that. Take a picture of it.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. And then he just leaves. Like, he just takes her and walks out. And I'm like, okay, I'll be here
back.
just stitched up. Like,
Yeah.
Deuces.
Y'all got other plans to be somewhere else other than right here?
Yeah. Like, I guess I'll stay on recovery. Bye.
Right.
Okay. So it was definitely weird, because if I'm comparing Danny to Max, my mom was there for Max. Like, the get-go. She gowned up. She watched everything. She told me what was going on, how far so far.
I know medically you liked that too, because you're like in it, you know.
Yes. And then Mom was like, okay, they're opening your abdominal wall. And I'm like, okay. I kind of feel the tugging.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard him, and I just started bawling.
Oh,
I heard
that's my favorite.
Oh, yes. Like, that first initial cry, I always, like, hold my breath. Like, I'm sitting,
Yeah.
I'm just praying. I am praying to God to hear that cry.
Mm-hmm.
So I bawled my eyes out with Max. Like, I could barely see him.
Mm-hmm.
Danny, I cried, but I was trying my best just to look at her and see what, before they took her out of the room.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was definitely weird if I'm comparing my mom to Josh.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's not bad, but I definitely got more of that maternal love aspect that first go around.
Mm-hmm.
Husband is completely different, and was like, she's here, bye. I got her, she's mine now. You carried her for 9 months, it's my turn.
And it hasn't changed till she's almost 2, right?
She is a daddy's girl through and through.
That makes me so happy. My daughter Annie's the same way, and Briley, and they left me too. They were like, "Good luck," and I'm like, "Help."
Yeah, like, okay, I know I'm supposed to have help here. Like, where is it at?
Right.
Now you think.
I like that you compared the two, because a lot of people don't think about the people that are in the room with them too. How much of a difference it makes your your mental stability whenever you're in
there. During the time I was pregnant with Max and having him, I was going through my divorce. Like, it was, you want to talk about not only life changing, that was life altering for not just me, but for Max too. And he didn't even know it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was not in a very good mental state.
Mm-hmm.
And then having Mom there, she was my absolute rock through that entire thing. And then my dad, like, they were the most supportive people. It was fantastic. So I was very fortunate at that time.
That's great.
I'm definitely very thankful.
Mm-hmm.
And then having Josh now and seeing the other aspect of this because Danny doesn't know anybody else. Danny has been here pretty much since 2 years after me and Josh got together and got married. Like, she is, but he can't deny her. It's right out of his butt.
Mm-hmm.
And he is so good with Max too. Like, Max dad, he don't know anyone else. So, and it's, I don't know. It makes my heart happy that he has, and then that Danny is just an absolute daddy's girl in general. But it's a weird little aspect to it.
And
because
you said that you don't plan on having any more, right, after Danny?
Nope, she did it. She is my get over the, I got my tubes cut, tied, burnt, whatever they were able to do, I asked for it.
Give them to somebody else. I don't want them.
Exactly. I asked for a hysterectomy. Like, I know I want no more children. I know I don't want to deal with this. She was it. So, no, you might want more later. No, ma'am. I do not.
That's great.
Well, it didn't great. Like, it was
from the outside looking in, like, your story, you had different chapters in your birth stories, and to see that you find it's closed, like, it ended beautifully, like it's a happy ever after. It was it's so sweet to look at that and you compare the two. I think that's great. I love your story because it's so different from anybody's I've heard, and it's special to you. Both of your kids were prepared for Earth for sure. They're ready to be.
Yes, without a doubt.
Both of them still are like, their personalities fit the same they were when they were born. I think that's neat.
Oh, yes.
They're like, Mom, hope you're ready, because we are.
Yep. Ready. Here I come.
And then you've got Josh being your partner and your best friend and the one who helps you with the kids. And that's really sweet too. And you deserve that. And it's great to hear how far you've come. And I'm happy for you guys.
Oh, thank you so much, girly. I just adore you.
I'm trying to be show everybody I care, because all of y'all are special, and people think, well, you've already had somebody who's been through this. I'm like, well, that's them. This is you. You're special for your own reason. And I like to remind myself, God didn't make two of somebody. That He needs one of me and one of them. So, everybody's special.
Yes, ma'am. I absolutely love that aspect about you. I do. Like, you have such a kind heart and so giving and loving, and it makes me so happy to be your friend.
Oh, thanks. That's why I started this. I just I love women and I love people, and I got to make other people smile. So that's why I'm hoping that, this might be a blessing to somebody. Maybe they're scared about a C-section. They hear you come through it giggling about it, and they're like, well, she did okay, so I'm going to do okay.
If I can do it, I think anybody can do it, because I do not have that great of a pain tolerance. And then to scare yourself into contractions, I think it's, and then
they're like, you want to do it again? And you're like, no.
Yeah. Nope, don't want it.
I'm good. I'm not bored. I'm good,
Yeah.
Whew. Well, it was good talking to you today. Thank you for meeting with me.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me.
And as soon as I get everything edited and everything, I'll post it and I'll tag you in it so you can see it.
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, have a good evening.
You too.
Bye, girl.
Bye.